Hello all my Kenvians and welcome to a brand new episode of Discovering Doctor Who. Yes, this is very much belated, but it is finally time to get into the 10th series, I was going to say season, the 10th series of Doctor Who, and like I said, this has been a long time coming. I'm so sorry it's taken so long to get around to it, but no time like the present. So, let's get started with the pilot, the first episode of season 10, and the introduction to Pearl Mackie playing Bill. I don't know her last name though. So yes, let's begin. So the Doctor has an office now. The Doctor's office. Aw, it's Susan and River. So cute. And all the different Sonics that he's had over the years. Still playing guitar.
All out later.
You kind of have to sort that out earlier.
Leave it with me. I'm assuming that it's a yes.
Yes.
I'll see you at 6
Aw.
p.m. every weekday. I don't care who's dying. Never, ever be late. I'm very particular about time.
Oh, people just call you the Doctor. What do I call you?
The Doctor.
But
As you do.
Doctor's not a name. I'm not just Doctor. Doctor what?
Dr. Watt. Quote of the episode. No, not really.
The door upstairs. How did you say the security? Friends only.
Friends only.
Choosing something for yourself, as you're always passing judgments. I hope you didn't spend too much on this.
Nah, this should cover it.
That's a loving Christmas there, isn't it?
I found that at the back of the cupboard with all your old stuff. Just photographs, everyone. I didn't know we had it.
Doctor. Aww. Doctor.
I'll tell you. Promise you'll have right. Promise.
There's something very wrong there. Like whatever.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Like whatever's up with that puddle, I feel like Heather's up to. Whoa!
Pilot engaged.
Oh, well, that was terrifying. Oh, left already. Oh, it's kind of weird. Or not? Made me jump. Oh. Oh, she's a water zombie now. She's turned into the Grudge.
Hello. Hello. You scared me. You scared me.
hmm. Is this thing like the monster from Midnight? Oh, that's creepy.
You're dead.
Nope. Run, Bill.
Box can move.
You can go anywhere you like.
Ooh,
Go in a minute. How are you dressing?
is it my imagination? This is taking longer than normal.
The room's still inside the box. This is not true.
No.
Doctor, it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Hey, we got
You have to imagine a very big. It's not just a revolt.
I wasn't entirely wrong. Apparently it is the
It's
Grudge.
a proper challenge. Let's see how fast he's prepared to go. I'm from a planet like everybody else.
This planet.
No, not specifically as well.
Mm-hmm.
What does?
TARDIS. If you're from another planet, why would you name a box in English? Those initials wouldn't work in any other language.
People don't generally bring that up. Well, that's the thing.
It's hidden inside of the box with Paul to enter on the front.
Stuck. It's supposed to blend in, but it's
A different sky. Is it made of something different? What is sky made of?
lemon drops.
Really?
No, it wouldn't have been nice.
You're very silly sometimes.
Because most things are. Oh, that's true.
Why?
Don't have it all written down. Whack like. I
Uh-oh.
act like I do because I don't.
It must be looking for something.
Of course it is. Everything is. But what?
Bill,
What?
run.
In the end.
Bill, run. Bill.
For someone. He's looking for us.
Bill, run.
Hey, still making eyes at a puddle.
Bill, run. Oh my god!
The false alarm went off, but it was nothing. The student was sick outside and registered as a biological attack.
No.
So,
I just want to fix something.
what are you doing?
Don't worry, this won't hurt at all.
No, but tell me.
Nothing.
Yeah, because I think you're going to wipe my memory.
Yep.
I'm stupid, you know. What's the trouble with you? I don't think anyone's ever seen a movie. I know what a mind wipe looks
I
like.
have no.
What you got to do?
Seriously, they're gonna mind wipe her?
But imagine. Just imagine I would have if someone did this to you.
Clara did.
Get out. You can keep your memories. Now get out before I change my mind. Don't speak, don't stop, just run. No, go!
They were using Clara's theme there.
Shut up. You shut up as well. Oh, please, just leave me alone. Don't do that anymore, I promised. What the hell? It's one of Earth's first colonies.
What are they? Alien birds?
Tiny robots.
I know that I
They speak Tanuki.
Where are all the people?
speak some mochi.
Oh, well, you're going back in.
Having this really childish impulse to blow it up.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
The world, keep you all safe. I'm not stopping now. Any questions?
It almost looks like, because of the coloring, it looks like the War Doctor's coat, but is that Saxon? Is that the... Ooh. Ooh, okay, okay. So, I guess I should probably let the credits run, but I'm just going to end it there. I'm going to end this portion of the video there, and I'll see you all in just a minute for the review portion of this video. Alright, welcome back all my Kenvians, and as I said before, it is time for the review portion of this video. Now, there's a whole lot to talk about, so I'm going to get right into it, starting with my favorite parts about this episode. Starting with the opening, the introduction to Bill, seeing the Doctor's office. That still cracks me up, the Doctor's office. But just that entire opening segment before the opening credits, it was just really well done. It was a fun introduction. It was an introduction to the way Bill just kind of, the way she communicates with the Doctor, really. And it also introduced us to this really weird concept, at least it's kind of weird, funny in my mind, which is the Doctor is a professor and a tutor, so now he's the tutor professor doctor, or doctor professor tutor. I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but it makes me laugh, and I really enjoyed that. Now, my next favorite part of this episode, I was going to make this the quote of the episode, but it's really far too long, so we'll call it a honorable mention as far as the quote of the episode goes. And I actually have several of those, but the first lecture, or rather the lecture that were actually shown in this episode, it's really well done. And when I went to college, there were some professors that were very good at presenting their material. They made you interested in what they were talking about. They grabbed your attention from the very beginning. I don't care whether it would be the Doctor or Peter Capaldi. If he was one of my professors, I would want to attend every single one of his classes. Every single one. That was just, it was a really well done lecture. It incorporated the ideas of a lot of what goes into this show, and of course it incorporated the whole TARDIS aspect, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, the first lecture, or the lecture, definitely one of my favorite parts of this episode. Now, my next favorite part is, it's very simple, but when Bill follows the Doctor and Nardole, I think that's the way it's pronounced, Nardole, down into the little basement area, and she opens up the door, and the Doctor asks what kind of security he put it on. He said, "Friends only." And I think the reason why that strikes me so funny and why I like it so much is it reminded me of a Facebook post where it's basically you have the different levels of security you can set your posts to. It's like only you can see them, only friends only can view, and so on. So I like that. I know it's kind of simple, it's kind of strange, but I enjoyed it. So my next favorite part of this episode, Heather's iris. It's just like the star in her iris, for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's really cool looking. I can only assume that the actress had a special like contact in to make her eye appear that way, but it really did look pretty. It's like, I mean, she was a very, she was very pretty to begin with, but there's something about that eye that just adds this different kind of mysterious and beautiful level to it. But another reason why her iris is one of my favorite parts is because of the way it's incorporated throughout the episode. Like when we see the stalk of the Dalek, it's her eye and it has that star design. And when Bill is looking down the drain and all of a sudden it's like an eye appears in the drain, it's her eye. It's the colors are a bit manipulated, admittedly, almost kind of neon, but still it's like the way that incorporates it, it's terrifying, but at the same time it's clear that that is Heather, or part of Heather at that point. So yeah, Heather's iris, definitely one of my favorite parts. My next favorite part, it was just such a sweet little moment, and I hope it's something that they're going to revisit as this season goes on, but it's Bill's mom and the pictures that are found. Just that scene where she goes through the pictures and she's crying over seeing these new pictures that she never got to see of her mom. And of course we see in one of those photos, is like it from the reflection, there's the Doctor with the camera. So I'm curious whether we might get to see Bill's mom, or if that will be delved into anymore. I really hope it is, but it was a really wonderful part of the episode, especially as this nice little Christmas gift to Bill. Now, my next favorite part of this episode is when things start getting a bit more intense, and it starts with the running water. When when Bill gets back at their flat, I can't remember her foster mom's name exactly, but she thinks she's in the shower or taking a bath, but in fact it's the water creature thing. And it's like, while it was pretty obvious what was going on, especially once what's her name called, it's like it was some pretty nicely done horror elements, which are done throughout the course of this episode. And that's one thing that I might have issues with Moffat and his writing from time to time, but there's one thing he's really good at, and it's horror elements. So that was that is one of several that was really well done, in my opinion, through this episode. Which brings me to my next favorite part, which was Water Heather, which I couldn't really think of, or Water Zombie Heather, I guess. But it was just that effect, and it was so simple and practically done. It's like, I'm sure the actress probably was a bit miserable being soaked most of the time, and probably was like splashed with water between scenes or between takes constantly. But it just worked really well. It was like her just standing there, like just completely flat-faced and zombified, the water dripping from all over her. It was such a nice effect. And again, practical effects. The special effects, they actually weren't bad. I'm not going to say they were top of the line special effects, especially when it came to her morphing into rooms or anything like that. But overall, I found it to be, pretty effective. So both the special effects and the practical effects just made Water Zombie Heather, just a really solid part of this episode. And then, of course, my next favorite part of this episode is when Bill finally enters the TARDIS. And I think I think one of the things that I just loved absolutely most of all, this includes when she's in the TARDIS and just sort of her interactions with the Doctor in general, but the Doctor's reactions to Bill's observations. It's like, they were kind of cracking fun at how it's like, taking this one a little bit longer to get to the whole, it's bigger on the inside than on the outside. And but it's like Bill would say a few things and the Doctor would just be like, So that was one of those elements that I'm going to enjoy more of, hopefully, with Bill being the companion for this series. And it's just, when Bill entered the TARDIS, and from that point forward, just the Doctor's reactions to her, and to a degree her reactions to him, I just found really, really enjoyable. My next favorite part of the episode, the deadliest fire in the universe. which, you know, it was kind of clear that it was a Dalek. Although I was thinking more along the lines that like the big fire was essentially the battle during the Time War, but okay, so it's a Dalek, that makes sense too. I did find it strange that the Daleks were not the most effective killers, at least when it came to the main characters of this episode. Because, like I said during the reaction, Nardole, he's either very quick or that was not a very accurate Dalek. But, that aside, you know, so, yeah, the portion with the deadliest fire in the universe, that was fun. And that actually brings me to my next favorite part, which was the fact that the reason why the entity which had possessed Heather was chasing Bill constantly was because of Heather's last conscious thought before it took her over, before it ate her, I suppose. And that was that she promised to not leave Bill. So there's definitely some cheesy aspects to that. Very cheesy aspects, actually. But I feel like it works. It was overall well done. And that's Charlie. Hey, buddy. In the background. He's probably going to have to go to the bathroom here in a minute. But my next favorite part of the episode, actually, again, plays off of that. And it's when Bill lets go. It was a very sweet scene. I actually thought that for a second Bill might go with Heather and then the Doctor would have to pursue, which would be like the next episode. But just the moment when Bill lets go, it was a very nice, sweet scene. My attachment to the characters might have taken a little bit away from what I was feeling. Well, I mean, I really like Bill. I'll talk about Heather a little bit more in just a moment. But overall, I thought it was a nice, sweet scene that was, you know, it had some emotional backing to it that I really liked. And then my final favorite part of this episode is when Bill talks the Doctor out of mind wiping her. And for many reasons. Just one, she knew what he was trying to do. It's like she's, I've seen a movie, I know what a mind wipe looks like. And then also where she turns it around on him just before, because it seems like she's given in to her fate as far as being mind wiped. But then she brings up, you know, just before you do it, think about how you would feel if someone did it to you. And that's an element that I'm going to touch on in just a minute, just in just a little bit. But that was such a great moment. I really enjoyed that. And I guess sort of an honorable mention afterward, where the Doctor talks to the pictures of Susan and River, and then the TARDIS kind of reacts. He's just like, "Shut up!" That was pretty funny. But those are all my favorites. Moving on to my annoyances. And I do have a couple. The first of which is the character Heather acts very peculiar through this episode. Some of which is explained by her feeling like an outcast and wanting to get out of there. But she acts very peculiar through the whole episode in a way that makes me think like she was possessed before she technically got possessed in the episode. If that makes sense. It's like, even before like she was absorbed by the entity, it seemed like she was acting very strange, especially like when Bill was looking into the puddle and then she just starts walking off. It was like there didn't seem to be any reason for that, at least to me. Again, it just seemed very peculiar, and it seemed like maybe the puddle had already affected her in some way before then, and it was sort of manipulating her thoughts. I don't know, but I think it's either that in some regard, or maybe the girl playing Heather just wasn't a very good actor, and I hate to think that that might be the case, but I don't know, it's hard to tell sometimes. It could just be, poor execution, or just a kind of a confusing execution, or maybe just the girl wasn't very good at the character. I hope that's not the case. I hope that there is sort of an explanation or reason behind it, but I see that as being just as likely of a possibility as, there actually being reasons behind why she was acting strangely. But moving on from there, my second annoyance with this episode is the Doctor talks about, before he's about to attempt to mind wipe Bill, he's like, talking about how no one can know that about him, or that he's there, he's in disguise, and yet he's doing these big lectures that are extremely popular, and that's obviously going to garner some attention, so I don't know how he's hiding exactly. So yeah, that seems like some weak writing in my opinion. Unless it's a plot element through this episode where, he thinks he's hiding, but in fact he's not, and that'll be revealed at some point later in the series. I don't know. But just as it is, that does annoy me, because it's like, no one can know that I'm here, no one can know what I'm doing, and yet he is extremely popular as a professor and talking about the TARDIS. He doesn't say TARDIS, but he, time and relative dimension in space. Yes. Just talking about all that, and if someone is even sort of has an inkling about all that, they're probably going to be able to figure out, oh, hey, this is the Doctor, or something along those lines. It's hard to say, but again, it's just something that annoyed me, and it's kind of hard for me to let go as far as that goes. But those are all my favorites and my annoyances with this particular episode. I would love to hear what you all think about what I had to say, and I would also like to hear some of your own favorites and annoyances, like anything that I might not have mentioned, or maybe you think that one of my favorites was an annoyance for you, or vice versa, one of my annoyances was a favorite for you. Just let me know. But moving on from there, I do have a few questions in regard to this episode. The first of which is, when they get to the Time War, or whenever that was, we see that some Daleks are killing some humanoids, some humanoid creatures. And I'm curious who, because there's a chance that these humanoids have been seen previously in the show, possibly in the classic era, if not the modern era, since I don't really remember them. But then again, I have a bad memory sometimes. But I'd like to know, who or what species were these humanoids that were fighting and clearly losing to the Daleks? So that's my first question. My second one... that last little clip there at the, what's coming up in this series, was that Saxon? Was that the Master? I mean, clearly it shows Missy, the Master, in some of those clips as well, but it looks so much like the guy that played Saxon. So I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong, but regardless, whether I'm right or wrong, please don't spoil that for me, because I'm really looking forward to finding out who that is. Being my luck, it won't happen until the end of the series, but I'm really interested to find out who that is and see if maybe I'm right, if that is Saxon / the Master. But those are all my questions. Moving on from there, I do have a track of the episode, and it is actually one that might kind of surprise you. My track of the episode was, strangely enough, Clara's theme, which it only shows up for a very short minute, but it's when Bill talks the Doctor out of mind wiping her, when she brings up that how would you feel, or again I'm paraphrasing, but how he would feel if someone were to do that to him, which Clara mind wiped him. That's just the way it is. That's the way that the final episode of her series went, of her last series went, in Hellbent. I'm pretty sure that was the episode's name. But and regardless of whether the Doctor realizes that it was Clara that mind wiped him or not, I don't remember whether he actually, how that worked out. It's been a while. But I loved how they incorporated that, and then just that subtle short sequence with Clara's theme I thought was really effective. So I really, really enjoyed that aspect. Okay, and moving on from there, I have some quotes of the episode. I will try and move through them rather quickly. The first of which is one that I really loved, and it had a lot to do with the just the way that Bill and the Doctor go back and forth and talk with each other. I hope this is a theme that continues through this series. But it starts with Bill saying, "If you're from another planet, why would you name your box in English? Those initials wouldn't work in any other language." And the Doctor says, people don't generally bring that up." It's just like like the way he reacts to it is like he's bewildered, and he's like, why would anyone ask that? But at the same time, he's just like, that's kind of a good point. It annoys me that that's a good point. My next quote of the episode is from Nardole, and it's near the end after Heather has moved on, and he basically walks by Bill and says, "That's the Doctor for you. Never notices the tears." Which is a line that was very reminiscent of the way that River Song was talking about the Doctor back in... I'm forgetting the name of the episode now, but essentially 2 Christmas specials ago, when she was talking about how, she doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because of the Doctor. It's like, you don't love the stars and expect them to love you back. Something along those lines. So it's like, I kind of like that little subtle reflection there. And then finally, my last quote of the episode is another one between Bill and the Doctor, right at the end of the episode, and it's, "What changed your mind?" "Time." And yes, they do, they expand on a little bit more, but just that little exchange right there, I really loved more on a human level. It's like on a personal level. It's like, what changes our minds? It's like, how do we end up changing our minds or coming to a different decision on things? We take time and we think about them. And that I realize that's not really the way it was portrayed there in the episode, but just that quote by itself, I feel like it works in that way. So moving on from there, a few theories really quick before before finishing this episode up. The first of which plays into my question about Saxon and the Master, and it's that the intelligent oil, the Doctor and Nardole talked about how it's like it could be a liquid of shape-shifting capabilities, which is evident given what Water Zombie Heather is able to do. But in my mind, that begs the question: what if this intelligent oil is part of a TARDIS? Now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense given that there were the 6 scorch marks. I can't think of any of the TARDISes we've actually seen having anything like that. But again, if this is Saxon, and if that was Saxon that I saw, and who knows if maybe him and Missy are gonna team up in some regard, if it happens. What if that's his specialized TARDIS? It was an element from maybe a TARDIS he made himself. I would just I don't know, it just kind of works in that way, which definitely makes me think that, you know, Heather is going to reappear at some point through this series. Which brings me to my next theory, and I'm not sure if I worded it right exactly, but it's that Bill may betray, in a sense, the Doctor in order to get Heather back, or she'll go against his wishes, so to speak. So, yeah, those are my theories. And just to reflect real quick on one of my previous theories from the last Christmas special, and that had to do with Nardole, that he might stick around for at least half of this next series. I'm still going to hold on to that theory. If he stays for the whole new series, that would be awesome. But I definitely am curious to see how long he'll stick around. But again, that's an old theory, but I'm going to be holding on to it for now. And possibly one other that I'll bring up later if the topic arises. But regardless, that is all my, you know, thoughts and quotes and all that. As for my overall thoughts on this episode, it was a fun introduction to Bill. I really like Bill. I'm really looking forward to having her as a companion. I like the fact that Nardole is seemingly going to be a companion through this series, for the time being at the very least. I mean, again, there definitely were some issues as far as confusion or maybe some poor acting, possibly, but for all I know, those may be things that are part of the plot of this series because Moffat. So only time will tell in that regard. So while I do have issues with it, I liked it overall, and it has me ready to get into more of this 10th series and just get into the rest of these episodes. And I hope you all are ready to get into them with me as well, or even revisit those episodes, since I'm probably the last of anyone watching this right now that hasn't seen this series yet. But moving on from there, well, before I move on, as always, please leave your thoughts, your comments down below. Whether this is on YouTube, I might include this on my VidMe page as well, VidMe channel. I'm going to try and spread around the videos, or if you're watching this on one of the other sites where this is the full version, the full reaction, you know, just let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts as always. I'm rambling. But until next time, everyone, for the episode, smile. I'm Papa Ken, and I will see you in the next episode. Allons-y!